you're at a jam night, somebody's playing that on the piano, and the bass player just, oh yeah, follow it, you'll hear it. Well, how do you do that then? How can you unpick what those chords are? Well, there is a sort of theoretical angle, but there's also some ear training that you can do to actually listen out for the distances between those chords. Let's have a look. So the sequence went like this. Now, if the pianist is playing that, the keyboard player, whatever, you've got to listen out for the bass notes. Now, while we're here, the bass note isn't necessarily going to be the root note of the chord, but usually it is. So we can kind of assume that for the moment. Actually, ear training works a little bit more in a sort of an advanced way once you've got the concept of these bass notes in the chords. So it went like this. Now what I did there was to play the bass notes louder with the chords just in the background. La, 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 la. It's about singing major scales, or singing a scale that goes from the first note to the next one, and then you can work out how far you've gone. Now, if you practice just sat at a piano, just playing a note, la, 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 la. Whatever your vocal range is, it doesn't have to be vast vocal range. Just make sure that it's in your comfort zone. Not only do you then sort of recognise what your lowest comfortable note is, but your voice and being able to hum something actually helps you with your what are called intervals, and that is the distance between two notes. So if we've got C, F, A minor, and G. So it went C, D, E, F. So that was too low for me to sing. But it doesn't matter what octave you sing it in. I mean, this is listening to the bass end and reproducing that is obviously much easier for men than it is for women, but you can sing it in any octave. La, da, 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 la, da, 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 da. It doesn't really make a difference. That's C, that one, that one, that one. They're the same. They're just brighter versions of each other as you go up the keyboard. So if I go C, D, E, F, it's about being able to sing a major scale. La, da, 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 dee, dee. And if the bass note happens to go elsewhere from that scale, you basically learn that as a sort of secondary thing. So we've got la, 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 F, G, A, G. So I've just gone down one note there. So being able to sing that, la, 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 and all you have to do is hum it or la it. It is ideal to actually make a vocal sound rather than because actually the way that you use your voice actually helps you to pitch what those notes are. And it doesn't matter about the octave. If you're struggling with the octave, well, the note in any octave, you could try shifting it. La, 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 la. And just singing those notes. It's really good for your ear, and it actually helps you to then pitch the intervals directly. So instead of actually going la, 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 you can go from one to the other. La, 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 la. Some people actually recognise them as tunes. So for a sixth, for example, the major sixth, my body lies over the ocean. That's what we were taught when we were kids, how to recognise a major sixth. If it sounds like my body lies over the ocean, then it's a major sixth. You can do all the sorts of things. The Wedding March is a perfect fourth, for example. Could be a hunting horn or something like that. That's a minor third, and we haven't really dealt with that here, but we're just working in the key of C major at the moment, so it's all white notes. La, da, 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 dee, 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 dee. Be aware of the semitones. Between the third and the fourth note is a semitone. but it still represents a change in a note. Some people, when they sing a semitone, they actually sing it a little bit flat. They go la la la. They don't actually put the fact that there is a distance between those two notes. It is half of the others, but there's still something there. La, 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 la. So you've got to make sure you push that pitch up so that it actually then can continue. So by the time you get to your octave, la, la, it is actually a sort of a meaningful interval in itself. You've got this range that you can use. So just going back to the chord sequence. La 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 la. You can start off by putting the notes in between on that scale, and then you can start singing them as intervals in their own right. Now, when you're practicing singing, if your range is quite narrow, actually, as you practice more, your range will begin to widen and it'll become a bit more useful, so you can start doing backing vocals and things. Now, the only downside to this, if I play this chord, which was the first chord, some people might home in on that, on the major third of that chord instead of the bass note. But it's not. La, it's the bass note. La, so you've got to listen out for those low notes. In fact, at grade 8 oral tests for the ABRSM, you have to reproduce the lowest part of a 3-part phrase. So you have to listen to the bass. So it is actually quite a tricky thing to do. But if you just home in on that bass, it means that you're very, very likely to find that chord. Now, it's less of a problem with minor chords rather. Although that note actually changes the character of the chord, it's, in my experience anyway, with dealing with students who are trying to do ear training, actually minor chords, they generally they find the bass a little bit easier than with major chords. No. La, la. Generally speaking, they find that easier. So actually in C major, you have C major, D minor, E minor, F, G, and A minor. So it's about listening for those distances with the bass. Now, if the bass goes down from the first note, la, 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 you've got to be able to sing a scale downwards as well. And lots of people, they don't practice their scales going down. It's a bit like practicing your alphabet going backwards. Nobody can absolutely well, a few people probably can, but it's much easier to recite the alphabet forwards than backwards. So scales, it's a good idea, la, 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 to actually practice the scale going down, because the first chord, C major there, la, la, da, 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 C, B, A, G. So you can get it from that. Now, of course, working with different keys, you need to be aware of your key signatures. So if we're in a guitar key, for example, E major. That chord sequence was E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B. This is your second note, or second chord. And then it went up one, B to C sharp. And then down two, B, A, E, B, C sharp minor, A. So you have to be aware of your key signatures. E major has 4 sharps in it, for example, and it's important as a keyboard player to get used to that, because you'll be playing with lots of guitarists. If you're a bass player, you know, the guitarist at the front might be doing something with a capo, for example, so you've got to know what key you're in. Capos generally aren't used on bass instruments, it's just the guitar really, but if somebody shouts out chords that are in a different key to what they're actually playing because of that capo, you have to sort of switch to the key that actually the capo is in. For example, if you put the capo at 3rd fret and play an E shape, you're getting a G chord. So that means you're in G, which is all the natural notes apart from the F sharp at the end. This means that you have G, A minor, B minor, C, D, and E minor. So there are lots of things going on, but vocal training, if you sing the notes that you're playing, and you can just do single notes, and it could be keyboard, guitar. Bass guitar is obviously a bit hard if it's really low, but as I said, and a G is a G is a G is a G. So you can actually sing whether you're practicing any instrument. Obviously not something that's a wind instrument. Yeah, you need to be able to sing along with the note you're playing. La, 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 la. I went up in perfect fifths there, and actually it's quite a wide range there. But practicing your intervals is really important, because then you can start finding your way around.